Hi, so this week I'm going to show you how to install a Switch Lite mod chip without using the flex cable. So we'll just get the CPU prepped. So we just need to remove all the excess thermal paste, and then we'll come in with our pre-tinned flex cable, line up, make sure the chip's in the correct place, and then we'll apply a little bit of flux, pop that onto there, and then we'll come with our soldering iron, and then we just need to apply solder to both sides. I've not used this soldering iron tip before, so it's the first time I've used it. Wasn't a massive fan, but it was already set up, so I carried on using it. But you need to make sure though that you've got solid connections. So just keep coming in with flux, keep coming with some fresh solder, and make sure that it's connected to both sides, otherwise you're not going to get a boot. Give it a good clean of isopropyl. Make sure you get rid of all the excess flux, you don't want it staying dirty, and then just give it a quick check once more to make sure that all the solder pads are secured firmly. So these are the highlighted parts that we need to solder to. So what I tend to do is apply a little bit of solder mask around the pads that I'm not going to solder to, and this makes it so much easier. I'm not a fan of the flex cables that come with the light kits. I've started using wires and it seems to be a lot better. Once we've spread out all the solder mask, we come with a UV light and leave it on there for a couple of minutes just to harden. Once it's hardened, we come in with some flux, and then we'll just pop the flux on the pads that we're going to aim for. Don't put too much on because it makes it a little bit harder to clean. So I could have put some more solder mask around some of all the pins. I didn't this time, but it could be an easier option if you've not done it before. Then come in with your soldering iron with a very thin tip, and then just very carefully solder the pads that we require. Give it a little clean of isopropyl, always clean as you go, making sure that you're not leaving all sticky flux on the board. This could affect the ribbon cables when you try and connect them later. Now this is the wire that I use, 30 AWG. I think it's probably borderline too thick, so I would recommend something a bit smaller. The problem with this is they are easy to catch and they are easy to pull off. You don't want to be ripping any pads, otherwise it could be game over. So come with your first wire, just pop it into place, make sure you're joining the solder onto both of the pads, and then we'll come with the second one again, just line it into place, and then solder onto the end two pads, and then we'll come in with the third wire. This one's a little bit closer to the other one, but just be very careful, and then get your solder onto the two pads, make sure it flows nice and easy, and then want it all nice and secure, can move away. Then we've got this other one here, so we'll come at a different angle with this one. This one's a little bit easier, it's a bit more isolated, so we just pop our wire on there and then pop the solder on. Give it a little bit of a clean, very very carefully, you don't want to be ripping the pads off. Now this chip in the corner here is what we need to solder to. There's a pad right next to it, so I'll put a little bit of solder mask over this, and then this will make it a lot easier. So what we're doing is we're soldering to the top of the cap. This is the 3.3 rail. So come with your wire and then very carefully solder to it. You need to make sure the wire is very flexible. I've put wires on this a couple of times, and then when I've bent it too much of an angle, the top of the cap's broken and I've had to replace it. So this is the hardest one to do out of all of them. Then I put a little bit of double-sided tape over this mini heat shield, and then we'll come with our chip. So we'll connect the ribbon cable at the bottom, that just pops into place, and then we'll position it in a little bit better, and then once we're happy, making sure that the bottom pad's lined up, we'll pop in there, stick it down. And now we just need to refer back to the picture that we had at the start, and then we just need to come with our soldering iron and run each wire to the corresponding pad. So as I said, just refer back to the picture that we had at the start, and this will show you which wire is which pad. Just make sure you don't get them mixed up. You need to be careful when you're using wire like this, as when the soldering iron is on the wire for a couple of seconds, the plastic can start to shrink and start to peel off. If this happens, you really need to cut the excess away and keep it as short as possible. You don't have long wires exposed, as this could lead to potential shorts. The final one is the ground, so just spin it round, stick it onto there. So all I normally do is go to one of the many heat shields that are on the switch itself, so go to the closest one here that's away from any chips, apply a little bit of solder, come with my soldering iron, other end of the wire, and then just solder to it, nice and solid. Give it another clean of isopropyl, again be very careful, you don't want to be ripping any of the traces off, just take your time. And there we have it, So we'll pop the battery in, we'll pop the ribbon cable in, just lock it across, we'll press the power button, and then hopefully we'll get something shown on the screen. So the lights flash, it goes blue, it goes yellow, we turn it over, no SD card, so that means it's working. So hopefully this is a good alternative to not using the flex cables that I'm also not a fan of. Thanks very much for watching, please like, comment and subscribe.